Good afternoon, and my name's Con Howe. I'm the one of the co-chairs of the Administrative Commission. The other co-chair is beloved Jan Cloyd. John Stewart and Martha Cadu are also members of the Administrative Commission, and we're the ones that are, on behalf of the session and congregation, shepherding our building project. And so let me just explain that in several months ago, the group of people under Jake's leadership talked about what we can do as a church to be a better steward of the environment. And in addition to educating and advocating, we all agreed it was very important that in the church's own actions, we carry through with our stewardship. And so that was the origin of the idea of this presentation, which is the green building or sustainable features of our building project. The person who's going to make the presentation, I'm just making a short introduction. The person who's going to make the presentation is Tarrah Beebe, who is of the firm KFA. The firm and Tarrah herself have done a lot of institutional work, including schools and preschools, but also do a lot of multifamily housing. And in fact, I know most people know that PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, was founded by this church, and actually KFA were the architects for the PATH's newest project, which just opened, a big opening. It's actually been occupied, but it was big opening was about 10 days ago. And so they have great experience working on behalf of the PATH and other affordable housing developers. Couple other things I just wanted to say that Tarrah's going to, as I say, give an overview of the sustainable practices and features of the project. Some, frankly, are dictated by law because both Los Angeles and California have been leaders in green building aspects. But also beyond that, many of the things that we're incorporating in the construction and in the operations of the building are really exceed requirements, which in all of those things I think evidence our commitment to being good stewards. I'll just say a very brief couple words about the status of the project and its overview. Tarrah's going to review the site plan, but what I would say is that people who want to have more of a dive into the design the church's website still, I believe, has like a 20-minute presentation on the design, and so that's the best way to get more details on the background of the project. The other thing I wanted to say, because we're really focusing on phase one, which is entirely the church's facilities. Phase one will include on the first floor the preschool, and then on the second floor will be church offices, meeting rooms, classrooms, and actually for the first time a small meditation chapel for the church. The other thing, and as I say, we're really focusing on phase one because that's entirely the church's facilities. Phase two, which I'll be glad to stay afterwards and answer any questions, but it's also on the website presentation. Phase two includes the assisted living facility, which will be operated by Belmont Assisted Living. Also, it includes underground parking, which actually will be in excess of the parking we have now and all be underground. And there'll be a fellowship hall, choir room, and of course, in case anyone forgot this, the sanctuary is retained in its beautiful design, and as Sean, as we were talking, maybe cleaned up a little bit too. So, as I say, I'm glad to talk later about the project and the origins of it, but this presentation is really about the green building aspects. And the last thing I'll say is, when will it start? Well, the earliest it would start would be this summer. That's the earliest, isn't it, Tarrah? Wouldn't you? The reason we've gone through 4 years of public approval process, and frankly, we have won at every stage. 2 neighborhood councils, the design review board, the zoning administrator, unanimous decision by the City Planning Commission, and then our opponents, their appeal was denied unanimously by the City Council. So we have total support through the public process, but as is the rights in our democracy, people can file a lawsuit. So right after our final approval, some neighbors, including at least one individual whose views would be blocked from the condominium next door, filed a suit. And the wheels of justice move slowly, but we expect an opinion on the suit in March. So that's why there's been kind of a hiatus, and Tarrah had been working for years with the staff and the preschool and the administrative commission, but we've had to have kind of fits and starts because when you really get into construction drawings, you want them to be right up to code, et cetera. So I'm going to turn it over to Tarrah, and she'll take some questions afterwards. Thank you, Tarrah.
Thanks, Con. Can you hear me? All good? Okay. So as Con mentioned, I'm Tarrah Beebe with KFA Architecture. It's lovely to be here. I live streamed the service this morning, so after the blessing of the animals, and in the interest of the planet, it's great to explain the project to you. So as Con mentioned, we have a phase 1 and a phase 2. This building represents phase 2, and our church offices and preschool building are phase 1 here. So this is a site plan, like you're in an airplane looking down, and this is Wilshire Boulevard. So the street out here is this. We're right now in the sanctuary, which is the existing church here. And then we have this housing building, and then our project that we're focusing on is here. So to start out with the sustainability just of the project inherently, we're using an existing site that's already developed. It's a parking lot. So we're not disturbing any native landscape to build the project. It's central and located close to transit. There's a lot of inherent features that are important about the sustainability of the project. We're also preserving this beautiful historic building that we're in right now. So we're off to a good start with just the scope of the project. The other thing that's important from a sustainability level is by increasing housing here, we're actually increasing the density of the area. That doesn't mean we're increasing the traffic. That means that we're putting people closer to transit opportunities. And density, an increase in density is inherently sustainable. That's where we're going as a planet, is increased density. So we have, let me just see here. We have a very talented landscape architect on the team. Their firm is called Land Images, and we're working with Scott Van Suey. And they have done all of the landscape design for the whole site. So in doing that, we'll see a very overall landscape design that has a lot of continuity. So this meandering path that goes from Wilshire down to the phase 1 project is all designed by the same designer. The palette that he's using is going to be all drought-tolerant landscape options, so there isn't a need for a large amount of irrigation. And we'll be using a plant palette that's all native landscape. So we have a photo here, and because we're in a fairly desert, dry climate, we sometimes think that that means just cactus. But there's a huge palette that we can choose from, and many of these plantings are flowering, so there's an opportunity both for color and beauty of the plants, but also to attract birds and insects that will pollinate these plants. Going back, I did want to share one more thing about the site plan. So the other thing as far as the siting of the project, S-I-T-I-N-G, is the orientation. So north is this way. And there's a glassy portion of the project that's the fellowship hall that's adjacent to this existing sanctuary. And that's all facing north, which means it won't have direct sunlight coming into the space. It will be light filled, but that helps decrease the amount of solar heat gain, so the air conditioner won't have to work as hard when people are occupying the space as if it was facing the other way. So the parts of the building that we have facing south are the play yard, which has an opportunity for a lot of landscape to provide shading, and then areas of the building that are more solid. So we'll be able to, just in the siting of the building, resist a lot of that direct solar energy coming into the building. Okay, so we've talked about the plant palette here. Now let's talk about, so these are the floor plans. We're now just focusing on the new project here. One thing to note is, and I heard this morning, that light pollution and noise pollution are both issues that have an impact to the environment. So the lighting on the entire site will have no light energy traveling up towards the sky. So all of the lighting will be focused where we need the lighting, on the ground, on the walking surfaces, et cetera. The other thing that we try to do for many reasons is have a building envelope that is sealed to minimize the amount of noise, the amount of heating and air conditioning that leak out of the building. So our building envelope is something that we consider very carefully to make sure that we have that, that protection. Okay. So let's see. The other thing with the building envelope is using dual glazed windows. That's also very important, again, for thermal reasons, also acoustic reasons. We have here a landscaped area that is a play yard that's for the preschoolers, and then we have a toddler yard up here. This is the connection up to Wilshire Boulevard, and we have bike parking that will be provided in this area, again, to encourage people to use transit if they're running an errand, or I know at our office we have office bikes, so people can take a bike and run and get lunch, something like that. So a lot of the things that we're designing architecturally will end up tying into the operation of the building. So I think that works hand in hand. So the goals of the church to keep that operation sustainable is important. As Con mentioned, the California Building Code is one of the most stringent, potentially the most stringent in the country. So just by meeting code, we are building to the standard of a LEED Silver building. So many of you have heard LEED certified projects. We're building to that standard, just inherently in meeting the code. So that's something to, I think, be proud of as citizens of California. Okay, so just to summarize the design a little bit, as I think Con mentioned this, the preschool will be on the first floor, and the church offices and gathering spaces will be on the second floor. We have rooms associated with the project that need a lot of natural light facing north, again, to minimize the solar heat gain. So all of the offices that have windows will be facing north. The preschool, toddler yard, the entrance are all also facing north. And then we have a circulation spine. So coming into the building, we have the preschool entry and path to the courtyard, all in a linear pattern so that there's an opportunity for cross ventilation. We're anticipating all of the windows to be operable. So there's, the 75% of the year that the outdoor temperature is comfortable, we're able to take advantage of that. So we have this opportunity for cross ventilation, and then at the classrooms, we are looking at opportunities for a large opening, a large door to provide that classroom as an indoor-outdoor space. So there's circulation where children have the opportunity to be outdoors or be indoors, but still get that fresh air and natural light. I don't have a roof plan here because it's fairly boring, but the building will have high-performing mechanical equipment for the 25% of the year when it's not comfortable outside. The goal for that equipment is that it doesn't create a lot of noise pollution and that it is very high-performing as far as providing cooling mostly to these rooms. So now we're on the second floor. We have a corridor space that has skylights in it, again, providing natural light. We also have some room on the roof for solar panels, should that be a project that the church wants to consider in the future. And we're also looking at an all-electric building. So when you have an all-electric building, you're able to use sustainable energy sources to power the entire building rather than using natural gas. So the biggest transition that we're seeing in the industry is for hot water heating. Typically there's a gas boiler on the roof, but we're looking at electric options for that. And then we're going back and forth on whether we have a kitchen with a stove, but should we go that way, it would be an electric stove rather than a gas stove for sustainability reasons. So our goal is to not have any natural gas in the phase 1 building. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to mention was more about building systems. So all of the lighting, as I mentioned, it won't be shining up, but it will also be LED lighting, which is new to the industry over the last 10 years, and now all of the lighting that we use or that we specify is LED lighting just for the sustainability reasons and its efficiency. All of the bathrooms will have metered faucets, meaning that they'll shut off automatically, so there's not a chance of anybody leaving the water on. And then we also have trash and recycling space here. So to support the school and the church's recycling needs, we have a separate space allocated just to recycling. So I guess with the architecture, when Con asked me to talk about sustainability, it's important to think about the things that we're doing actively for sustainability as far as choosing the building systems and the products that go into the building, but also things that we're doing passively just inherent in the design. So I mentioned before the siding of the building and how we've oriented the building to have the glassy areas face north, et cetera. We have a stair that's located centrally to the building, so if there's an opportunity for people on the second floor to use the play yard, that's something where the stair is so conveniently located that it encourages people to take the stairs instead of the elevator. So that's an example of a passive action that we can take or design element that we can include that helps people contribute to sustainability without even knowing. Okay. So now we're going to zoom in just a little bit to the play yards. So we have the infant toddler yard here, and we have the garden for the preschool here. So those will both be on the very south portion of the site. We won't have any just green lawn anywhere. That's something that's probably the least sustainable landscape that you can put in. Instead, we have a lot of permeable paving so that any rainwater that hits the site will be filtered by the earth before it goes into the storm sewer. The toddler yard will be all permeable paving that's soft. That's for accessibility reasons as well. So any students or children that are in wheelchairs will be able to enjoy the space as much as able-bodied children. And then in the preschool garden area, there's a lot of opportunity here for the landscape to be integrated into the learning of the students. So we have gardens where the students could grow vegetables and learn from the landscape, even though we're in the middle of a city. Okay. And finally, these are what the building looks like. So this is the north elevation. So as you're walking down the path from Wilshire, this is what you'll see. You'll notice there's not a lot of parking. As Con mentioned, the parking will all be in the lower levels of the Phase 2 building. And then we'll have bike parking in this area that I mentioned before, so that we have the first part of the building that you see is the meditation chapel and this concrete portion of the building that invites you in and references this structure. So concrete, while it has a lot of embodied energy, has really high performing thermal qualities. So I've never been in here on a hot day, but my guess is that if you had this building versus a building that was made of wood, this building might be a little bit cooler on a hot day. And concrete and plaster, which are the materials that we're primarily using, both have really good thermal qualities. So it's a good opportunity to pick a material that's going to, as much as possible, insulate the building. We also have wood paneling here. We're intending for that to be wood that is a renewable resource, so not any slow growth wood, but wood that would not have impact to the environment.
Is there some practical reason why it needs to be so institutional looking?
I think the question is there a reason it needs to be institutional looking?
I mean, in the area, the nice things of the kind of the Spanish flavor, a lot of the things replacing them are somewhat like eyesores compared to the Spanish style. They have practical advantages, as this probably does too. But from the street and the history of the area and stuff, it really seems unfortunate that the old Spanish style houses are being replaced by, boxes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the design, this project is really nestled behind the church, so there really isn't a front view of it from the street. You come into the campus before you see it. And what we really wanted to do is have the reference to the church. So the materiality of the sanctuary that we're in right now is really what's inspired the entry and the design of that. I think that the other thing that we were looking at is having very clean forms so that there was very clear reference here. And so stylistically, to try to marry the style of this building with a Spanish style, we thought that using cleaner forms would allow the celebration to be of the sanctuary rather than of the building beyond, but still have a visual connection. Did that answer your question? Yeah, the wood typically, the wood in person has a very warm feel to it. So plaster, all of the Spanish style buildings that we see are all plaster as a material. So we have included that as a material here. Again, this is an area that's very tucked in the corner of the property. So this view, while we're showing the building here, is not something that anybody will really see. So up here, we've really put a lot of emphasis on the warmer materials along the north facade. Do you have anything to add to that, Con?
Yeah, I'll just emphasize. Just in terms of the relationship, this is the wall of the cemetery, and as Tarrah said, this is the part of the building you would see it as you come in from either the driveway off Wilshire or from the extension of Ashton. Actually, this is all church property. So in terms of being on a public street, the public street actually ends here, ends here. And then, as Tarrah said, this is actually looking from the playground. Of course, doesn't show the playground per se, but this was actually the view you would get from the rear corner of the property. And this shows the openings to the classrooms. I think if you're done with the overall presentation, sure. Are there other questions? Paula?
I'll
Here, I'll give you this one.
Yeah, we need the microphone so folks live stream can hear. I guess two questions. One, you talked about having recycling and trash. Is there any thought about composting being available?
Great question.
And then the different, completely unrelated is, can you speak at all to the tearing down of things and what happens to those materials? And that may be outside the scope of your world, I don't know.
As part of the project team, we bring in, I'll answer your second question first, Paula. There's a contractor that will be part of the team that will provide pricing information and cost estimating as we move forward, and we'll be checking in with them. As they plan out the project, they plan a construction waste management program. So it's really up to the contractor to make sure that the materials that are disposed of properly. And before that happens, we would meet with you, the church, to confirm anything that you want to save. So of course, furniture that you may want to reuse or have reupholstered, and any other elements that are important to keep. If there's any historic fabric that lives in that building, that's something that we can salvage and identify to the contractor that we would want to keep that. So it's really a partnership that comes a little bit down the road. And then your other question was about composting, which that's really a hot topic. As of recently, it's been a requirement by any waste management company. They're required now to provide composting services. And so that's filtering down to the architect, right? Where are we gonna put this? So this area, which has now, based on a recent design revision, this area has become larger. But the intent for this is, gardening, vegetable gardening. So I think composting would be a very easy fit into this space to actually see the worms crawling in it. And it's a great educational opportunity as well. So I see that fitting into this space.
Well, I would hope that I second the composting thing, and it's would not just be for the preschool, but for the whole community.
Yes.
I live in a condo, so I don't know how fast they're going to get around to doing that. I don't have green things, containers sitting out on the street. So I was really hoping we could have it sooner than that, and I could bring my composting bag up and put it someplace. I'm now taking it to UCLA, so that's one thing. My other question in reference to the gentleman's concerns here, and I like the fact that you're referencing the church, and just sitting here looking at this, would there be any opportunity in all that beautiful wood you're putting up there to sort of pick up some of this motif to include in that?
One thing that we're looking at is the opportunity to have a stained glass that references the windows here. So, for example, in the meditation chapel here, this entire area is glass. So we've been talking about, is there a way to do colored glass that references the windows here? So, yeah, there are definitely building elements that can be referenced and incorporated into the building.
That actually makes me think of one other point. That this, while this is the entrance to the ground floor preschool, this entrance, which would also be wood to reference the wooden doors of our church, is the entry into the lobby and elevator and stairwell that would go up to all of the offices and meeting rooms here and the meditation chapel. But also this is a two-story glass space, which I don't know if you'd call it an atrium, but this is all part of the entry, and it'll be therefore more ceremonial and more hospitable than just, you know, like a door into the ground floor. And natural light, again, facing north, so it's not going to be direct hot sun, but natural light will come into both floors, both levels. And the other thing I just mentioned in the meditation chapel, while this portion facing the north will be glass, and glass hasn't been chosen, whether it's some sort of stained glass or some sort of diffused light, so it's not harsh and it lends itself to meditation. But also on this side of the building, which I guess is just off this, but there would be I guess called a celestry.
Yeah. Clear story.
Clear story.
Yes.
Clear story windows that would emit light, but not, again, direct hot sunlight. And so in the interior, this will have should have a very kind of warm, calming glow to it.
Similar to the lighting in here right now, you know, there's diffuse light coming in through the windows. Yeah, the diffuse light really makes the space feel the way that it does.
Are there any questions on the chat?
Not so far. Any other questions from the room?
I think a lot of other questions have to do with phase 2, so that's not on the schedule today.
Yes. We're not the architects.
There's still questions whether she's the architect or not.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, listen, thank you all for coming and for your interest. And the other thing I guess we ought to mention is you can design all these things in, but then you have to operate them correctly. You have to, and you probably didn't mention the light switches when you leave a room. There's no motion, the lights will go off. So all of the people in the world who forget to turn off lights, now they're, in a way, they'll be rewarded. Their bad behavior won't be, you know, reminded to them because they'll do it automatically. But seriously, we as a church, even when the project is built, have to think hard about how we will make sure we operate it, whether it's the recycling or the composting, the lighting, the efficiency of all the equipment, keeping it maintained. So those are all things that are not just in the architecture and the design, but in the operations. So it'll continue. And thank you all for coming.